Karibu.
Thank you. Wow. Madam President, distinguished friends on this side, and learned friends. Madam President, just for the record, it is an honor for me to be here as your advocate number 1056 of 1979. I actually missed being admitted in 1978 because I had to go for some postgraduate work in Cyprus. Otherwise, it would perhaps have given further meaning to what I'm just about to say. I've had my practicing certificate for the last 46 years, including when I served as our beloved country's 10th Vice President between 2008 and 2013. So there's been no break, even as Vice President. I just took out. And I want to advise those of us in public service, please don't give up your practice. That is your fallback position. If you become, even if you become like my friend Macau, some advisor. My learned friends, this annual conference is themed Protecting Constitutionalism and the Rule of Law and Governance. It's not just timely. It is, in my opinion, the most consequential discussion of our time. Yesterday, Chief Justice Martha Koome, Madam President Faith Odhiambo, Professor Migaya Ketch delivered such powerful speeches that should have shaken anyone listening in this room and Stream B, as well as those watching from the outside, including the current leadership, in my opinion. Following Chief Justice Koome's observation that the work we do as a position is constitutional, yet the work we do is actually not in the Constitution. Allow me to contribute to this conversation. Learned friends, 2024-2025 is a case study of state repression, unlike anything experienced in our country's 62 years of independence. And please prepare yourselves to hear things you have not heard before from this podium, because I'm just exercising my role as Madam Chief Justice Koome said, the opposition. And we call it, we just have to say it as it is for the sake of this wonderful nation. The open daylight abductions, the public beatings and maiming of young Kenyans innocently protested the growth of a Haiti-style militia groups with caches of small arms and light weapons, terrorizing Kenyans and looting businesses under the police supervision and protection. This reads like a blockbuster film. However, it is hardly an imaginative or artistic script that awaits performers to bring it to life on our screens. This is the current state of the nation, in which repression, tyranny, and flagrant contempt for the rule of law threaten to pervade and infect the country's soul. Members of the bar receive calls every day and night from shocked and frantic relatives looking for abducted Kenyans, most of whom are under 30. Their crime was using social media to openly voice their shock, their rage, and incredulity of a renegade state, because they exercise the fundamental liberties guaranteed under Constitution 2010, and more specifically, as you all know, Article 37 of the Constitution. They are regarded like terrorists and charged under the Prevention of Terrorism Act, POTA, and persecuted like criminals. Not long ago, a few young Kenyans came to my office and spent time narrating their traumatic experiences with abduction and torture to me. Despite what they went through, the physical and mental torture each of them endured, and their fears that death was just a minute away, they all spoke confidently about one thing: their faith in our Constitution to rescue not only them, but also the others who are in cages with them. It is that faith in the sanctity and supremacy of our Constitution that protects Kenya from becoming a failed state. Whether it's a state capture of parliament and of state agencies, when elements of the church and sections of the opposition have been compromised to look the other way, it is you, the Law Society of Kenya, who have held fast. You have become a beacon of conscience for the country in such perilous times. You responded to distress calls at all hours and volunteered your services. You, Madam President, would even place a call saying, we need a senior counsel to at least appear in Melemani, because we have to be there to stand with you. It has been said from this podium that you have performed well. But in my honest opinion, you have exceeded everybody's expectation. You and your able team. Never mind if your vice chair was seen campaigning here. Please forgive him. I've appeared with Kabata in committee, that prison, the anti-terrorism court, just next to committee maximum prison, in order to give these young Kenyans, putting them fear of their lives, so they will never again want to take into consideration their liberties under the Constitution. As united opposition, we have also taken firm and decisive action because we're saying enough is enough. I heard President Ruto say enough is enough in another context. I want to tell you that one of the things that President Ruto has done is to call for a joint PG, parliamentary group meeting, between ODM and UDA. It is within their right to do so. But let them be distant. If indeed I see the Secretary General of ODM here, Senator Sifuna, if indeed you attend that meeting at State House on Monday, for the love of this country and good order and governance and the supremacy of our institutions. We just had Professor Macau give a very good lecture on the separation of powers. And I've actually said Parliament itself is under state capture. Indeed, the fruition of this will happen on Monday, and I want to suggest to Senator Sifuna that if that happens, joint PG of UDA and ODM, the following day in Parliament, Honorable Junet Mohammed, who is supposed to represent me in Parliament as the majority leader, should immediately vacate and move now, so there will be good order, so that they now move and join together, so we know that the opposition, the joint opposition, now will have the responsibility to have a new team. We are very able young legislators, like Babu Owino, who was just in here. Because of this regime's, as Chief Justice said correctly yesterday, you cannot criminalize human rights defenders. We all know, under Article 20 of the Constitution, since 1920 of the Constitution, we imported, and this is part of our domestic law, those treaties that Kenya has been signatory to, and all those human rights treaties. Therefore, you cannot run away and pretend you're an island, when indeed, under Constitution 20 yourself, and you have sworn to uphold the Constitution as by law established. Therefore, these international treaties on human rights are part of our domestic law. We are then bound by the same. Because of this regime's inability to defend and protect rights and constitutional values, and guided by our Constitution, particularly Article 1, we established the People's Restorative Justice Commission on June 25th. Professor Makau, please hear me, my brother. We did that. This people-led initiative, chaired by Speaker Emeritus Jamie Muturi and Commissioners Dan Manzo, Fred Ogola, Asha Bashir, and Nerima Wako, has been working around the clock to restore dignity, rebuild lives, families, communities, and society, and hold perpetrators accountable for crimes against humanity. The opposition's initiative, that is already getting international recognition, is starkly different from the recently announced task force by President Ruto and Raila Odinga. The question we and majority of Kenyans are asking is, how can the perpetrators who gave the shoot to kill and the shoot in the leg decree be the judges in their own already admitted crimes? By compensating, and yeah, Professor Makau, compensate, yes, we are with you on that because it's important. But you cannot compensate the life of a Kenyan. One Kenyan life lost is one too many, and we cannot accept. Going forward, all Kenyans arrested and detained during the Maandamano protests and Sabasaba Day demonstrations must be released immediately. But all DPP have been here. I've just shared that with you. The Director of Public Prosecution, so happy you're here to hear me say this. As your colleague in the profession, we are saying that all these demonstrators, we call them actually prisoners of conscience. They have to be released immediately and unconditionally. A lot of them are out on bail terms. Thank you again, Madam President. We work very hard. And all those advocates who gave their pro bono services to at least have these young men and women go back to their parents, we really congratulate you. This includes all those who are dragged through the anti-terrorism court and treated like terrorists. Well, we know the purpose, Parliament's intention in enacting, I think in 2012 or 2015, Porter Prevention of Terrorism Act. They didn't imagine. They were looking at transnational criminals like Al-Qaeda and Al-Shabaab. Now you get these young Kenyans and you take them there and you really put the fear of God in there. I can tell you, end up hardening them. And I can tell you they're very committed to making sure that their country is given back to them. Remember the Gen Zs. Friends, today more than ever, I'm reminded of Brutus' words to Cassius in William Shakespeare's play, Julius Caesar, Act 4. And I paraphrase, I think I will just quote it because it's so opportune, even as you look at the Indian Ocean from this place. It's a beautiful place. I don't know how many of us know that our sea, our coastline, is one of the best anywhere in the world. And I can tell you the southern sea, for example, the Diani area, amazing beauty. But therefore, remind you, and Julius Caesar, Act 4, that there's a tide in the affairs of men, which taken with the flood, leads them to fortune, omitted, all the voyage of their life is bound in shallows and in miseries. I actually want to add, to conclude that, and on such a full sea, that's what we are, Kenya, on such a full sea, are we now afloat. And we must take the current when it serves, or lose our ventures, is an issue. End of quote. Time, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, learned friends, is extremely of the essence. It is important, and we have to come to the rescue of this nation from a regime actively determined to suspend our hard-fought constitution. The law is not just an instrument of order. It is a covenant of justice. If we are not vigilant, our constitution shall be eroded and Kenya's present and future will be undermined. Kenya cannot succeed without a vigilant and courageous legal profession. And you, the defenders of the law, cannot succeed without a principled political class willing to defend our independence. If we lose the law, we lose the nation. This is a challenge of the most consequential discussion of our time. Therefore, our presence in Diani, this particular time, Professor Makao has just said it's the first time he ever attended. He's a wonderful friend of mine, and I'm giving him the chance. Sometimes you go just to stand up. When you look to talk of elite consensus, what you are telling Kenyans to do is, it is time to eat together. It is time to plan our resources. Listening to Dr. Adesina today, one of the most distinguished African, not just academicians, but a person who has taken into this continent at heart. I know that his term comes to an end on 1st of September, and the task of the next president of ADP will go to Mauritania. I've just come from Abidjan, and I've seen some of the wonderful work the African Development Bank has been able to do. But when it comes to procurement, look at the slow pace of what is happening between Vanga, for example, from Bagamoyo in Tanzania to Malindi. This is a project that has been funded by the African Development Bank. We really owe it to this great mind who has spoken to us today. And in fact, as Feda said, you're going to end up your tour of duty on a very high note. Because as learned colleagues, we need to hear this kind of truth. That the Thika Superhighway, for example, people believe it was done by the Chinese, but I was there when Professor Adesina and President Kibaki launched the Thika Superhighway, and the money came from the African Development Bank. But who were the contractors, and how are they contracted? Even now, what is happening between Bagamoyo and Malindi? Very slow pace of implementation. We have to rise together. I know myself, I have no doubt in my mind that this audience that I've been part of since the last 2 days is the most important audience. If the Law Society of Kenya drops the ball, we have no country. Therefore, faith, continue to keep faith and hope. And let us continue to hope and fight. It is going to be the kind of fight you never know. For example, today, the High Court, and I really actually think the last line of defense, our courts of justice, Justice Lenaula, who even one time talked about interference with e-filing. Can you imagine? During the impeachment. My final remark, when President Ruto says that members of parliament have been asking for bribes from other arms of government, that is the consequence you suffer as a colleague. If you get compromised, you get to a place where you are now misused. Who is it who paid in excess of 10 million shillings per MP, per senator, to impeach Deputy President Gachagua? Was that corruption or was it not corruption? That is the truth. So when you have the perpetrators talking as if they are speaking for the Holy Land, then you wonder. You wonder. We continue to call them out, and we tell them, this is not the time to fear anybody. I'm telling you, if you take a breath, as Law Society of Kenya, we have no country. But if we stand together, the 1,700 who registered to be here, they might end up talking one time more than other people. I thank you. I thank you so much.
Our next speaker is the Honorable Super Senator of Nairobi County, Edwin Sifuna, CBS. He started his political career in 2013 and has steadily grown to become the Senator of Nairobi City after being elected in 2022 general elections. The committee, he has already sponsored several bills in Parliament, namely the Basic Education Amendment Bill of 2024, co-sponsored with Honorable Anthony Oluoch of Mathare constituency, the Sports Amendment Bill 2023, the Energy Amendment Bill 2023, giving significant contributions to important national and local legislation and policies. The Honorable Sifuna is a career lawyer, a credible public servant with a track record of inspiring change through his legislation, representation, and oversight. I have so many accolades, but I can say